လိုသိချင်ပါဘူးလားတရားရဲ့အထုပ်တယ်ဆိုတော့ဘုရားကပြောပါဘူးဒီလောကကြီးမှာလူကြီးတော့ဒီလိုစိတ်ခတ်တော့လူကြီးရရှိပြီးတော့လူခက်ကိုဖြစ်တော့လောကတဲ့လူကြီးတွေးတော့ဒီတွေးကိုကြီးတွေဒါရှိအောင်လုပ်ရတာရှိအောင်လုပ်ရတာလူကြီးတွေလူကိုကြီးရတော့ဘယ်လိုလုပ်ဖြစ်လာပါ့ဘဝသာအတွက်ကောင်းလို့ပြေအောင်သူလောကကြီးရာတွေတော့သိရတယ်အခုတော့ကိုယ်ရေးကြည့်ပါတယ်ဒီလောကပါဠိလိုဆိုတာဆိုလို့ရှိရင်ဒီဒီသားကိုရေးကြည့်ရတယ်ဒီလိုစိတ်ဓာတ်ကိုရေးကြည့်ရတယ်လူကြီးရပြီးတော့ဒီသက်ကိုဖြစ်ဖို့ရေးကြည့်ရတယ်အဲဒီကပါဠိလဲဆိုတာကိုသိတဲ့ဘောကြည့်ရပါတယ်ဒီသိတဲ့စိတ်ကိုရှိလို့ရှိရင်သာပြေရတဲ့ဖြစ်ရအောင်ရှားတော့လို့ဒီဆယ်ရနာမြတ်တာဖြစ်ဒီလိုရအောင်ရှားတော့လို့ရှားလို့တွေ့ပြီးဆိုလို့ရှိရင်တော့အဲဒီနည်းကိုသူအသုံးချတယ်ဒီလိုကအသုံးချတယ်လို့ရှိရင်အသုံးချပြီးအကျိုးကတော့အသုံးချရင်တော့ရှိတယ်မှာပါသာကြည့်ကြပါဦးမဆုံးမဖို့တော့လုံးလို့မရဘူးသိသိကြကြလို့ဒီမလေးဆက်လို့ဟောဒီတရားထုတ်တယ်ဆိုတော့ဒီမလေးဆက်လို့ကျုံလို့ဘုရားဆိုဒီလိုအလိုမျိုးမဟုတ်ပါဘူးဒီမလေးဆက်လို့အလိုမျိုးပါအဲဒါတော့ယောဂီများနားလည်ထားဖို့ရှိပါတယ်
Practicing the Dhamma of Satipatthana, as the yogis are now, as Sayadawgyi has said, it is for being a true human being, for developing a humane mentality. And although we have human intelligence to develop special human knowledge in this world, it is to develop the qualities that a good person should have. So one needs to work to create these qualities. They don't arise naturally. And even worldly education is something that has to be learned. And now, the type of work that we are doing now is more important. There's a way to make oneself a true human being. There's a way to develop a humane heart, humane mentality, and a way to develop special human knowledge, even though we have human intelligence. So it's important to search for this way. One should have an inquiring mind. One should investigate. And if one searches, and if one finds someone who is able to teach this method, if one meets up with a good spiritual friend, then one should use the method that person teaches. If one uses it systematically, then there will be benefit to the extent that one uses the method. One needs to work systematically. Meditation practice is something that doesn't happen haphazardly. It's something that one should make a plan to do. It's undertaken according to to a plan. So it's a work that, it's a task that we need to make a specific plan to do. The yogis should understand this.
ဒီတရားပုဂ္ဂိုလ်တွေကအစကကောင်းတဲ့ဓာတ်ကိုပြီးသွားအောင်လက်ခံရပါတယ်ညတ်တော်ရပါတယ်ဒီမှာတရားတွေအားထုတ်လို့တရားတော်ကိုကြည့်ရင်သွားလို့ဆိုလို့ရှိရင်ယုတ်ကြည်တတ်တဲ့အရာပေါ်မှာယုတ်ကြည်ဟုတတ်တဲ့တရားလေးတွေသူ့တက်တဲ့ဖြစ်လာမှာပါတတ်တဲ့တရားဖြစ်တော့အမှားတွေကိုဆောင်ရတဲ့သတ္တိပဲပိုကောင်းလာတယ်အမှားတွေကိုလိုရတဲ့သတ္တိပဲပိုကောင်းလာမှာပဲတတိယလည်းအထူးကောင်းလာအောင်စိတ်ရှိရှိသမားတွေကျိုးရှိရှိပြည့်တဲ့စိတ်နိုင်တဲ့အပြည့်နဲ့လည်းသူ့တက်တဲ့ကောင်းလာမှာပဲအဲ့ဒါကိုကိုယ်မှာဘုလိုတရားထုတ်လို့ရှိလာလို့ဆိုလို့ရှိရင်ဘုအားထုတ်လို့ရရှိတဲ့တရားကြီးကပဲကိုယ့်ကိုယ်ကိုအိမ်စိတ်ဆောက်တော့ကောင်းမှာပဲဒီလိုတရားထုတ်ရဲဆိုတာကိုယ့်ကိုယ်ကိုဒီလောကအလယ်ထဲမှာမမှားရအောင်လို့သိထုတ်တဲ့အသိပညာတွေသိထုတ်တဲ့ဉာဏ်ကြီးရအောင်လို့ပြုလို့ရတယ်ဆိုတော့နားလည်ထားဖို့အရေးကြီးပါတယ်
beings, especially human beings, who cannot live without food and drink, have to eat food and have to drink liquids. And also, we have to get rid of the waste. When one eats, one has to choose nutritious food that has vitamins. And one has to eat suitable food regularly. And in the same way, one has to avoid eating what is unsuitable. Especially, one has to avoid eating what is poisonous. When we know a certain food is suitable for us, and we eat it, then we can get good health. And we can gain full strength so that we'll be able to do things for our own benefit and for the welfare of others. When we eat what is unsuitable for us, we get bad results immediately. And unsuitable food can even take away the energy that we have. So this ability to reflect on what food is good for us, what food is not, is something that parents should teach their children from a young age. And in the same way, there is behavior which is clean and pure and beneficial. Things to do, say, think. And parents and teachers need to point out to their children and students what these behaviors are, and they need to point out that to the extent one does these pure and clean behaviors, one will get good results. And they also need to point out that the actions, the speech, and the mentality which is not good to do, say, or think, these things get bad results. And when we do them, we break our morality, and also others are harmed. So parents and teachers must tell their children, their students, from a young age, starting from the age at which a child can understand. And understanding what parents and teachers say, students and children should follow these directions, and to the extent that they follow, they'll get benefits. If one is a human It's important to be a true human being. It's important to have a humane heart, a humane mentality. And it's important to, even though we have human intelligence, to develop special human knowledge. So it's important to be free of wild and untamed behavior. One should control oneself and not harm others. The people of the world should nurture this attitude from a young age. If such parents no longer exist in the world, then the world is basically destroyed. And now, really, in effect, the world is destroyed. But there is a good spot. There is a good spot in the world. And for this spot, this small area of the world, to become unified, to be very strongly unified, one has to pass these good qualities on to one's environment, to those within arm's reach. If one practices and knows the qualities of the Dhamma, then faith in that which is trustworthy will become special. And due to this special faith, keen faith, one will have courage. The courage to do what is right, and the courage, importantly, to avoid doing what is wrong. Because of this, one will have good awareness, sati, and ability to focus and ability to reflect on what is beneficial and what is not beneficial, what is suitable and what is not suitable before one undertakes an action. If one has these qualities due to practice, one will be able to control oneself. One will be able to preserve these qualities in one and also control oneself. Meditation is for developing the way to control ourselves, and the yogis should understand this.
Let's say, you don't let by your life to look in value the Manasi Sara Saravana Manasi Sara who are Ayana say of this is here, you hear I think you see Mataku Savido, that is Jimaku, a little lower. Udema, Korea, Jimaku, Nagira. Yunega, Savega, Nanega, Savega, Tigega, Kuya, Sana, Sona, Yera, Sora, Sana, Sarasara, Sayara. Sukia, Ayurveda, Jimaku. Let's go with the Pogo. You have to keep the not just the body. You have got you must go there. I can't do a rule. You must come up here for the looking about it. And they must say, well, you don't see the food started to the bullshit. Bullshit of Mandia, you must be a So what is the my daughter to say, no, my daughter. So you are the way not to my lady, please get the way not to the other. Who see me to say, no, you will say, not to the other. Shadow of a window. Ago. Say to you to my lady, to come up to her, the other person, the big man is being on the hour to the other to her. If I knew she talking about it, you would not be allowed. Go there, people in the alley, she don't get there like this. There are 200, go there, put it as 200 hours. She will too good to her. She will too good. She will too good to her. Who was the man? Mutton, who was the man? Give my listening. There are you. Who was the man? Mother, who was the man? Give my what the man are you? The cool you will utter the Kaluma. We start there while we say, you know. This is who Maria. Truly said that about it. Go and have the guy with the long in the door. I have a news to the other from my bed with my other. Say, I said, I got the body, whom I advocate to marry the Luya to the body. There are the two other one. There are body with the immediate house over there. Immediate car. तुम्हारी आयु मत क्यों अनिले हो समझते
When our basic morality is complete, then from there one who wants to develop continuity of the clean, pure mind and to come to know the true Dhamma stage by stage, what is needed to establish such a mind, such consciousness? What is needed is just to keep one's mind upright. This is the quality of manasikara, which is sometimes referred to as consideration. So manasikara, this means that we have to aim at the object. Manasikara means to aim the mind at the object. And we have to practice aiming the mind, practice directing the mind to the object by practicing when we want to throw darts at a target. In the body, there are many targets. There's seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, thinking, bending, stretching, leaning, lifting the head, lifting, moving, placing. These are all objects to be observed. These are our targets. And one who is skilled at throwing a target knows that at the start one is not able to hit the bullseye. One has to practice. So there's a target, and within that target there's a bullseye. One has to aim for that. But even if one doesn't hit the bullseye, still, if one hits somewhere on the target, one can get points. If one hits towards the edge of the target, of the large target, then one only gets a few points. And the closer one gets to the bullseye, one gets more points. When one hits the bullseye, then one gets full points. So people who want to establish samadhi collectedness of mind, and from there to develop knowledge, they have to do target practice. And this means to observe every arising object in the body. The objects arising in the body, these are our targets. And just like there's a field of observation, a large area at which to look, there's a small object within that. So there's, just like there's the big target and then the bullseye. So one has to aim at the bullseye, aim at the target. And one has to practice doing this. When the mind hits the object exactly, when the mind connects exactly with the object, then collectedness of mind, samadhi, occurs in a special way. So when we practice, we apply effort and aim, and in doing this, samadhi develops. So one needs to make a note of how it is that one manages to collect the mind. And this is called nimitta gaha, that there needs to be some, how should I say it? One has to remember how one develops samadhi during the practice.
I don't know how they listening to the Jamaica Sota, Dago. They are somebody sit down the main house. Come on, my land, come on, my tower, Dago.
Practice is to gain vipassana samadhi. And vipassana is to see the individual and common characteristics of mind and matter which are related as cause and effect. So the work of developing the knowledge of the true nature of mind and matter, this is vipassana. And to do this, we have to observe the immediately arising objects in our being when they arise. And because of applying ardent effort and accurate aim, the mind falls collectively on the object. This mind falling collectively on the arising object is vipassana samadhi, the collectedness of mind in vipassana. So for vipassana samadhi to arise, sometimes everything goes well and we're able to develop it. And sometimes things don't go right and we can't get it. So when things are not going right, we have to remember what it was like when they went right and we were able to develop vipassana samadhi. How did it happen? When was it? Where was it? Were we doing walking? Were we doing sitting? So how was it? When was it that the khanika samadhi, the momentary vipassana samadhi, occurred before? The way in which it occurred, that is called in Pali nimitta, kind of the hallmark of how it happened. And one has to remember that nimitta, that hallmark of how the good samadhi was developed before. And remembering it, one has to practice according to what one remembered as being one's good experience. And by doing that, what isn't going right, that will be overcome, and one's noting will become good again, and the samadhi will arise. So one has to, this is what is meant by nimitta gaha, that one has to recollect the way that khanika samadhi, momentary concentration, arose due to one's practice. So one has to use the good method again, the method that one found was useful in the past. One has to make a note of what that method was.
So the way I did that, thank you very much. How many are you ready to Home or to be in Tango. We are set to gather the matter. Everyone what the Canada cannot be very capital. Could you get the matter to the other? Mother will set up to that one with it. Mother called it Bible. I was new the Queen Jack City of Holy. Khanika samadhiကောင်းတယ်အဲဒီလိုရဲ့မှလို့ခဏကသမားကြီးရနိုင်တဲ့ဒီလေးကိုပြန်ကောက်အဲဒီတိုက်ပြန်အားထုတ်ဓမ္မဘုရားနဲ့ခေါင်းနဲ့ပြည့်နဲ့ထိုင်နဲ့တုံးသက်မှလို့သူးစားကြတဲ့သမာဓိကြတယ်လို့လည်းဆိုလို့ရှိရင်အဲဒီတိုက်ပြန်အားထုတ်ဓမ္မဘုရားတို့ဒီခေါင်းနဲ့ပြည့်နဲ့ထိုင်နဲ့ရှိတယ်ပေါ့လေမကလည်းကျဲနေတော့ကျဲတဲ့ဟာရဲ့နေရာလေးတွေအမကလေးတွေတိုးတိုးပြီးတော့ဖြစ်ဖြစ်သေးတာသ သူ့အတူဝင်ကြအမှတ်တွေကောင်းမှုတွေဆိုလို့ရှိရင်အဲ့ဒါလေးဒီကကောင်းတဲ့ရည်ရည်တွေပြန်ကောက်အားထုတ်ဒါဆိုလိုပါပဲဒီညာနဲ့ကိုယ်ကြီးကောင်းမယ်ညာတော့ဆိုတော့တွတ်ချက်မှလို့ဘောဓိတွေကောင်းတဲ့ဘူးလေဆိုအဲ့ဒီဟာတွေမှဓမ္မနည်းနည်းစိတ်ဖြစ်နေလို့မှရတော့ပါတာတာကြီးဖြစ်လို့ရှိရင်လည်းတွတ်ရတယ်လှမ်းတယ်စားတယ်ဆိုပြီးကြချက်အဲလိုအထုတ်ဆိုင်လို့ကျူးရတဲ့ဓမ္မတွေလေးတွေဝိဒနာဓမ္မတွေလေးကျူးချက်ကရှိရဘူးအတိအကျနဲ့ကျူးကြရဘူးလေဆိုလို့ရှိရင်အဲဒီဒီဟောကိုကြာပြီးတော့သုံးချတာတဲ့ဓမ္မတိရှိတဲ့အကြောင်းကြီးဟောကိုကြာသုံးချတာတဲ့ဒါယောဂီကကိုယ့်ကိုသိနေပြီးတော့သိနေလုံးတရားနဲ့ကြာပြီးတော့သုံးချတာအောင်လည်းသိတဲ့ဉာဏ်လေးတွေလိုပါတယ်သမဏဆန္ဒလည်းအတူတူပြရပါတယ်ကိုယ်လည်းသိတဲ့ဉာဏ်ရှိပြီးသမဏဆရာအတူတူလိုက်ပြီးဆိုလို့ရှိရင်တော့ဥပဒနာလမ်းကြောင်းမှာကြောက်တော့ပါပဲဒီနည်းနဲ့ပဲတတ္တဆိုင်ရှိတဲ့ဤသို့ကောင်းအားလို့ငါးခုမြောက်ကိုပြည့်စုံလာကြပါတယ်
If earlier on, when one was sitting, and just in a regular way, observing the rising, observing the falling, applying effort and accurate aim, and the mind fell collectedly on the object, Khanika Samadhi arose and the noting was continuous, occurring again and again, the mind and the object meeting exactly. This is Khanika Samadhi, and if when one observed the rising and the falling, this type of Samadhi arose, then one should remember that method and use it at the times when one's concentration is not going well. Or, if one was observing rising, falling, sitting, and while doing that, good Samadhi arose, then use that method when one needs to make one's Samadhi good again. Or, if rising, falling, sitting was still too sparse, too few things to note, and when one had, in the past, when one was observing rising, falling, sitting, touching, and doing so, if in the past one's meditation became good, the concentration developed, became continuous, then use that method. And it's the same with walking. If during the walking one was observing lifting, placing, and one's concentration became good, then one should use that when one's concentration isn't going well. Or if 2 parts was too few to be observing, and you found that when you went to 3 parts, lifting, moving, placing, if you found that in the past special concentration developed using 3 parts during the walking, then use that method again to develop concentration when it's not going well. So the yogis need to have the ability to reflect on themselves and adjust accordingly. And the meditation teachers also should help in this area. If the yogi has the ability to reflect like this, and also the help of the meditation teacher, then the path of vipassana is straight. And then the 5th cause for developing the 5 qualities, the 5 ruling qualities starting with faith, this 5th quality is present.
No Kanyuva which is another Nupuna Daya, which is the other Sylvia of the Lord, Supportia, Bodhi Matra, Bodhi in God. Bodhi in God. Sika Lega, Sika Yango, Balidu, Bodhi to cover. The body is a very good. It is a very good body and God of cover. Probably the forever see a body and God, you can never know. The thing is a very good. This is a material. See, a very good. Utiado de Sura, a very in our very body, Sida, I will look at the world.
And another of the causes for the ruling faculties to arise is Bodhangananta. Anupawittanataya, that one has to so this refers to the Bodhangas. Bodhanga is the word that means one has to have them in a suitable way. So the Bodhangas, Bodhi-anga, are the two parts of the word Bodhanga. And Bodhi means that which knows the Four Noble Truths. And Anga means component, or part, or factor. So together this word Bodhanga means the component parts of the knowledge of that capability of knowing the Four Noble Truths. And practice is for developing these component parts completely.
Anupodana to the Deva, Tiki Devata, Tiki Dava, Tiki Vakita. 200 to Punjab or body, he is a fair thing about the name. Lula did it, Army is the Archipelago. Aria Miyabi, the Fatuya will say another, that is Punjab or body. So, he is the body of the man. He did it the body of the man.
Anupavittana means to balance, to make them suitable. So if a factor is weak, to make it stronger, and if a factor is too strong, to reduce it so that it's just right.
The
Sometimes a person who is meditating hopes for something good to happen, and then it doesn't happen the way one was hoping for. And then one feels discouraged and depressed, and one starts to slow down and become inactive. And sometimes everything is going fine, and the mind gets excited, the mind gets elated, and then scattered. So neither of these is good. For the mind to be depressed and lazy is not good, and it's also not good for the mind to be elated and then scattered. So there has to be a way to balance these. And so this, when the mind goes up and goes down, then one needs to make a balance occur.
တရားအထုတ်လို့ကိုယ်မှာပြီးကြလို့ရှိလို့စိတ်ကြီးကရော်ရဲဖြစ်လို့ရှိရင်အဲ့ဒီရော်ရဲတဲ့စိတ်တွေကိုတက်တက်ကြွကြွတောက်တော့ပြည်လို့ဖြစ်ဖို့ရအတွက်ဘုရားခုနှစ်ပါးတွေကတိတိသမုဒ္ဒရာတိတိဆိုတဲ့လူသိအားရပြောဆိုတာဝိရိယသမုဒ္ဒရာဆိုတာလှုပ်လို့ရှားရှားပါဘူးဆိုတော့တိတ်တော့ပြုလုပ်တဲ့သဘောပြီးတော့ဓမ္မဝိသသမုဒ္ဒရာဆိုတာကပေါ်လာတဲ့အာရုံကိုသဘာဝလက္ခဏာ၊သညာလက္ခဏာကြည့်လို့ရတဲ့သူလည်းကြောက်ကြပါပါလေသူကအပညာလည်းပဲအဲ့ဒါလေးတွေကစိတ်ကိုတိတ်တော့ဖြစ်တတ်တယ်ရောရဲတဲ့စိတ်ကိုရှိလို့ရှိရင်အဲ့ဒီဟာကိုအကြည့်ရထားပြီးတော့အားကောင်းလုပ်တာတရားအတူတူကကောင်းပြီးတော့ပျော်ပြီးတော့ပြောရစိတ်ကကြွတောင်းဖြစ်နေလို့ရှိရင်ပျော်ရွှင်ပြီးတော့စိတ်ကစိတ်ကြွနေလို့ရှိရင်သူ့ကိုမြင်သိတဲ့တရားရှိပါခပ်ရည်ဒီသတ္တတုတ်တဲ့တာလေးပတ္တိသမုဒ္ဒရာသမာဓိသမုဒ္ဒရာဥပ္ပခသမုဒ္ဒရာဘောလို့အဲဒီသမုဒ္ဒရာသုံးပါးကိုရှိပါတဲ့ဒါကအားကောင်းလို့ပါတဲ့ဒါကပြီးတဲ့ပြီးတော့ပြီးတဲ့ဒီတစ်မျိုးပါဆိုတော့အဲ့ဒါကိုတော့နောက်တစ်ချက်မှာပဲဝိသုခန္ဓပါရှိတယ်ဆိုတော့ဝိသုခန္ဓပါရှိဆိုတော့ပြောပါနော်အာထုပ်နေကစိတ်တွေအသက်ကျရှိလို့ရှိရင်စိတ်တွေကြောက်ကြမ်းဖြစ်လို့ရှိရင်ခါးလေးစိတ်တွေအာထုပ်ပုံနဲ့စိတ်တွေရောရဲဖြစ်လို့ရှိရင်တက်တက်ကြကြအာထုပ်ပုံလေးတွေပေါ့ဒီအဲဒါလက္ခဏာကြောင်းကသာဓုနဲ့လက်တွေပေါက်တက်ပြီးတော့ပြောပါနော်ဒီလိုရတော့တဏှာကြီးပြည့်သွားတာမလို့ဒီမှာဝိရဒဥဒ္ဒ
Just because one has been practicing and nothing special is happening in one's experience, if because of that the mind has become slack, then one needs to boost it. One needs to energize it. And the energizing factors are piti, which is joyous interest, virya, which is active and energizing, and kama vidya, which is a quality, a type of knowledge which investigates, is concerned with the true nature of the arising object. And these three qualities energize the mind. So one should observe these three qualities to make the mind more active when the mind is slack. When the mind has become overactive, then one needs to calm it. And the ways to do that are the factor of passaddhi, or tranquility, the factor of samadhi, or collectedness of mind, the factor of upekkha, equanimity, If one observes these three qualities, they make the mind, they help the mind not to be overactive. So one should observe these qualities and make them strong. This is one way to balance the factors of enlightenment as needed when the mind is either slack or overactive. Tomorrow, Sayadawgyi will speak about the 7 bojjhangas, the factors of the knowledge which knows the Four Noble Truths. So if the mind is overactive, or if the mind is slack, then one needs to use these qualities to bring it back into balance, So Sayadawgyi will speak about this tomorrow, how to do this. And today the hour is up, so Sayadawgyi will stop for now. That's all.